Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 2 of SOP's British GT Championship, the replica series that you follow in the real world. Tonight we are at Silverstone with its 3.66 miles of tarmac, and the drivers are just finishing their practice session. As you can imagine, they have been practicing all week long as well, and it's not just tonight that they've hit the track. So I'm just going to return us to the garage and we shall wait for us to head out on track in a moment for the qualifying session. 20 minutes qualifying, 10 minutes for the GT3 cars and 10 minutes for the GT4s. I'm going to start off on the back foot this evening. I'm going to try and sort out some technical issues while we ride on board with some of the drivers during qualifying. So we're going to start on board with Lee Kingy McGee now as he heads out on the pit. I'm going to leave you on board with him, and I'm just going to try and sort out one of these technical issues that I'm talking to Simon about at the moment. First 10 minutes are the GT3 cars, and you're on board with the number 9 Bentley of Lee King McGee. Right, I am back after those technical issues, which is no stream is ever complete without a technical issue at all, but we're all good and going. We're on board with Lee King McGee, who's going to set the first lap of this qualifying session for the GT3 cars out at Silverstone this evening. As you can just put the calendar up on the screen for you there, we can see we're at Silverstone tonight for round 2, and next week we're at Donington Park. Last week was the season opener with Alton Park, which saw Von Brabant in the McLaren secure the P1 position after some carnage in that race. As you can imagine, no SOP race is complete without some carnage in it, and Joe Boyle taking P2 in the Bentley and Jack Alexander in the Porsche taking the third and the final place of that podium last week. Not forgetting, of course, the GT4s. We've got 15 of them on the track this evening and last week. Luke Rogers in the Ginetta taking P1 in class for him, and Tomlinson Dennis in the Audi taking P2, and Marcus Josma taking the final step on that GT4 podium last week as well at Alton Park. If you didn't see it, make sure you go and watch the VOD of that, because that was a very interesting race, and John was with you last week, the Scottish beauty as I like to call him, and I'm with you this week, but I did catch up on his commentary from last week. It is worth a watch. It's worth noting that this entire series actually is sponsored by the Coach Dave Academy, and we'll see a couple of videos for them shortly in between the sessions, as Lee King McGee sets the first lap and immediately gets demoted to P2 from Van Brabant. There are going to be some pronunciation issues this evening, and please correct me in chat if I've got anybody's name wrong, but you can see that Lee King McGee there down in P3 already as Von Stralen takes P2, 2/10 off the leader's time there. Von Brabant in a 1:57.937. Track temperature is 24 and it is reading optimum conditions as well. So what you see is what you're going to get from these drivers. Obviously the GT4's coming out in 5 minutes time as Lee wastes no time at all there and is firing up the car like Bentley again. On board with Leon Seeley, he goes 8/10 off the lead on P5. Looks like he's carrying on actually on his hot lap, so going to go straight into a second. Saw Lee King McGee come straight back as he goes through Maggots into the right of Beckett's there. Great corner this is through all of them, and then on the exit there of Chapel. Car looks a little bit unstable there, resting with the wheel in between those turns, and he's going to be flat on the floor all the way down to the hanger straight now into Stowe itself. Who else have we got on track at the moment? Lee King McGee obviously is just on his outlap at the minute. Von Brabant is 2/10 up on his next lap as he comes around the loop and in towards Aintree, coming out of village himself as well. Hayden Harter there in P4 with a 1:58.582, and that is a significant gap to P1 already that we're seeing. Who else? We've got Mark Bunyan there setting a in P9 with a 1:59.497, and Alex Walker there bringing up P15 as it stands at the moment, 2/10 up on this lap. Going to stay on board with Von Brabant as he comes across the line in a moment. He's 3/10 up on this particular occasion. Looks like he's going to set another fastest lap for him, and it's going to give him a little bit more margin to P1. Oh, looks like there he goes, half a second faster. He crosses the line and does improve his lap time there. With Van Stralen again 2/10 behind, that 2/10 gap still staying there, but improves again. That gives Lee King McGee 6/10 off where he wants to be as he now comes around Liffield and Brooklands himself. Going to start his next final lap as he comes through Woodcott in a moment. A couple of other laps to mention is Ben Crooks is a 10th up on this lap. Matoli is a 10th up as well, and Jack Badman there is 5/10 up on this particular occasion as he now comes up towards Luffield in that Ferrari, the car number 13, as he looks like he's well and truly in control of that car on board with the helicopter as he looks like he's going to cross the line. Can he improve? That is the question, as he now puts his foot flat on the floor through Woodcott and is about to go across the line, and does he improve his time, and that puts him in P12. The two front runners there that are 2/10 split them between us are half a second down on their current lap, so maybe they are lifting off and are going to push again. Joe Boyle there 10th up on this particular occasion as he now approaches Maggots and Beckett. Let's see what it looks like from the driving perspective there. Ooh, absolutely well and truly in control of that Bentley as he comes through Chapel now, foot flat on the floor, down the hanger straight, down towards Stowe and Vale, my favourite corners of this circuit. Good evening everybody in the chat. Van Brabant, thank you Simon. There's always going to be that difficulty in me. I'm terrible at it, and my job as well requires me to say names as well, which is always rather interesting as Joe now takes us through the Vale chicane complex. Of course, on to what is now the Hamilton Straight, the was known as International Pit Straight again as he now puts his foot flat on the floor, and that short burst down towards Abbey and curve. Farm curve, I should say, on the tail of that Ferrari, which I believe was Leon Seeley that we were on board with earlier. 3/10 up on this lap at the moment. That's going to put him firmly in P2. Obviously he did come second in last week's race as well, so maybe we're going to see a starting grid of what we saw with last week's race. The car number 25 there as he comes around the loop down towards Aintree, foot flat on the floor, down the Wellington Straight into Luffield and Brooklands. To stay on board with Joe as he completes his lap as he's 4/10 up, which at the moment looks like he may even get P1 out of this as well, because he's currently doing sector times that match P1. Obviously we've got a yellow flag on track at the moment. It shouldn't affect him too much where he is. We've got 1 minute and 20 seconds left of this qualifying for the GT3 cars as he comes around the final corner. Looks like he's ran wide there, and he will be, I think he's lost some time there as he looks like he's going to run straight into another lap as well. 600ths off P1. He did have the time there as well, which he lost just on the exit there of Luffield, so whether he's going to back off or continue on to another lap, it certainly doesn't look like he's backing off at any moment in time now. Lee King McGee just come into the pits. and he's out again on track, neutral delta at the moment. Alex Phillips is in the Bentley himself as well. They're the car number 222 coming down the hangar straight. So some great liveries out there obviously in this replica series. Good evening everybody in the chat. You're joining me for round 2 of this wonderful British GT series, replica series, sponsored by Coach Dave Academy themselves. SOP obviously hosting this evening at the wonderful track of Silverstone with 18 turns that we all know just a little bit too well from time to time. I'm sure you would agree. I'm currently on board with Alex Phillips, who is 1/10 up on this lap here, and Von Brabant there, who is also 10th up on his lap number 6 of this qualifying session. Obviously we're now into the GT4 qualifying time, so those that are on laps can complete them, but nobody can now start another one. I'm going to cut to another scene in a moment. We're going to stay on board with Alex Phillips and Lee King-McGee because they are both 3/10 up on this lap. We'll come back to Alex Phillips in a moment as Lee King-McGee comes around Loughfield. We'll go on board with the helicopter, see what it looks like from that perspective, keeping it nice and tidy on the curb there as he comes through Woodcott himself. Foot flat on the floor now and crosses the line with 3/10 on the delta. He does improve, that puts him into P4, 5/10 off the leader still though, with Von Brabant there in the 1:57.427. Tonight's series and the entire series is sponsored by Coach Dave Academy. So we are now at Silverstone waiting for the GT4s to set their lap times as the GT3s are now more or less all parked back up in the garage. Let's jump on board with some of that GT4 action with Luke Rogers there in the Ginetta, the car number 21, as he's on his out lap as well. And as you can see from your track map there, all of those that are not familiar with ACC, then blue dots mean they are on an invalid lap or a non-time lap, so an out lap or where they have exceeded track limits. All the cars are blue, they're on their out lap, so the first person that's going to set his time is the car number 5, Mustafa Ranjbar, as he leads the way down. The track map doesn't reflect what my timing screen says, so that could be interesting. We'll see when the drivers cross the line of who's going to do what. So just a reminder that last week's race at Alton Park saw Luke Rogers, Tomlinson, Dennis and Josma take P1, 2 and 3 for their class winnings. The GT4s themselves, particularly the Ginetta and the Audi there standing out on its pace. As these GT4s now start to set their line. No Ravenstein, no, Link said there is no Ravenstein, it's me unfortunately. I'm hoping you could probably understand what I'm saying a bit more than the Scotsman himself. But I'm afraid I can't quite live up to the standards that John does provide. But you never know, we'll get there eventually. Luke Rogers then, he's in the Ginetta as well, car number 21, coming through Maggots, Beckett's, and he heads his way down towards Chapel now. See what it looks like from the driver's perspective there. As they come round through Chapel, foot flat on the floor, down the hangar straight, down towards Stowe and the Vale chicane itself, my favourite part of the circuit. And if you ever go to Silverstone, it's probably one of the better places to sit as well, providing it's a sunny day. It's one of the uncovered grandstands there. Obviously this track can hold 150,000, which is a very amazing atmosphere if you can get there on a full attendance day, as he keeps that car nice and tidy there, coming through Stowe itself, down towards Vale, and hooks up perfectly on the apex there for the left and the right as he now approaches the international pit straight. See what things look like from the outside of that car there, and he is absolutely on it at the moment. Mustafa Ranjbar then, he was the first person out of the garage, but he's not going to be the first person to set the car. The car number 315 will be the one to set, which is Chris Pizik in the BMW himself. 315, they're coming around the loop and the Aintree corners. I know, Elixir, your J Ball. I did do my research beforehand, and I was watching your stream the other night. Good lap from you. I don't know whether you had the 600s in you or not, but it certainly was looks like it was on rails as it came around that final corner. And the BMW here is about to cross the line, which is going to be the first GT4 time we've got on the board for this qualifying session, with 5 minutes left to go. As foot flat on the floor there, and he sets a time which obviously is 12 seconds off the pace, which is a 2:10.3 as he now starts his second flying lap. Ian Egan there setting a 2:10.350, so only marginally slower than Chris himself. The car number 989 there taking P2 for the class at the moment. Tomlinson Dennis there, our last week's second position in P3, and Mosaic there in P4. Those times are coming down the board there, and they're fairly representative at the moment. Mustafa Ranjbar they're setting a 2:14.8 in the pink Ginetta car there. You would think that he might be part of the SOP team with the pinkness on that car. You can see Ginetta's galore coming down the hanger straight here at the moment, down towards Stowe Corner, and you can see the car number 21 there just pulling out and taking his way in lead through those corners there, Luke Rogers. Allowed in quali, not in race. Ah yeah, that's the return to garage rules. Martin Brighton there, the car number 88, he's now coming through Stoke Corner himself up towards Vale. Let's see what it looks like from his perspective there. Meets the apex nice there. Tyres sound like they weren't crying out too much. Nice, and using all the available track there and making sure you don't hit the sausage, which catapults you into that grandstand opposite the wing. Ian Egan then, getting his second lap. He's currently only 200ths off P1 in class as he comes down the Wellington straight now. And for those who have a bit of history there, obviously it was an airfield with the Wellington Bombers, hence the name the Wellington Straight as he comes through Brooklands in towards Luffield now. And as you can see, that GT4 Aston Martin there absolutely hooked up perfectly as he comes round those final few turns now, on board with the external broadcast cameras as he's going to cross the line. He's currently a 10th up, which is all he needs to take P1 in class. He'll be very happy with this result if he can. Foot still flat on the floor there, using all of the curb, and he crosses the line and improves, and he takes P1 in class with a 2:10.2, which puts him considerably faster actually in the grand scheme of things than his colleagues on the track. Tomlinson Dennis there coming out of the pits in the Audi, and he is not on a time lap at the moment. Martin Brighton in P29, and the 88 car there, the Ginetta car, as it overtakes the car number 21 of Luke Rogers as he goes towards the Maggots and Beckett's complex, and not forgetting the wonderful corner that is Chapel. Looks like he took a lot of curb there on the right hand side. Didn't unsettle the car too much though. You do that in a GT3 car, you know about it, because your back end is in that barrier across the road from you. Andy Purcell 10th up on this particular occasion as he now starts his next lap up towards Maggots and Beckett's complex there. It's Ginetta at the moment. Again, taking a little bit more comfortable amount of curb there as he comes through. 2 minutes 20 seconds left of this qualifying session for the GT4 cars. GT3s have obviously set their cars, their times at the moment, with Von Brabant in P1, Joe Ball in P2, very close at the top there. Indeed, in fact my timing screen doesn't even register the difference in that. I have to look at the game to see the difference in those two times at the time of setting those laps. And Von Stralen there in P3 as well. Obviously they're all in the pit at the moment as these GT4s are occupying the track. Ian Egan is your current class leader. He's the pole sitter for the GT4s. The car number 989 there as he comes round. Aintree on his next lap as well. Looks like he's got a neutral delta at the moment. Tomlinson Dennis there 2/10 up on this lap as he's now coming down the hanger straight up towards Stowe. The Audi there, which obviously was last week's P2 position at Alton Park, with of course the car number 21, Luke Rogers, and he's currently struggling to find a pace by the looks of things. A little bit further down the class than I thought he would be given last week's race results. And he now comes round to start his blitz down the International Pit Straights, or Hamilton Straight as it now is, up towards the complex of Abbey, Curve, Village and the Loop. That nasty little set of corners, if you get them wrong, you can lose and also gain a lot of time there. 59 seconds left of this qualifying session and all your GT4 cars are still out on track. And those to note at the moment, Andy Bassell is a second up on this particular occasion. As I said earlier, Ginetta as he comes around Luffield now, looking to set a decent and respectable lap time for him. The car number 42 there, taking it nice and easy on the exit of Luffield down toward Woodcott. And he's going to cross the line and see what he can set. Does he improve? He's lost a little bit of time there on that exit. He does improve. But not enough on that occasion. Ian Egan there, still your P1 for the class at the moment. And Chris has returned to the pit, so we're not going to see any more lap times from him. Tomlinson Dennis is 4/10 up at the moment, which is going to be enough for him. As he crosses the line with 10 seconds left to go, does he improve? That is the question, and he does improve, and he goes fastest for the GT4 cars this evening. So that last minute lap there for Tomlinson Dennis manages him to secure pole position for the GT4 race himself. He now starts at the front, P23 on the grid overall. As I mentioned earlier, tonight's race is, and the entire series, is sponsored by the Coach Dave Academy. They are sponsoring the entire series, of which we are entirely grateful for. And just a quick reminder, as these cars return to the pits now on their laps, and we've got the calendar there. Next week we're at Donington Park, a personal favourite of mine, not too far. It's also my local circuit. We're at Silverstone tonight, but it's 18 turns and 3.66 miles of tarmac, which obviously was resurfaced recently, and these laser tracks do reflect some of those changes in real life as well, it's worth noting. There is your track map for this evening's race, as we stay on board with our current pole sitter for the GT4s. He starts P23 overall, P1 in class, the car number 15 now, the Audi, as that comes round to mop up the last of his lap. So tonight's grid is going to look interesting. We've got 60 minutes of racing as we stay on board with them as we return to the pits. So it's worth noting that we're going to see a variation of strategy tonight as well. There is a mandatory pit stop for fuel and tyres, so we're going to see a little bit of strategy choices as well. But some of these drivers do have outright pace on their side as well, so all is not lost through pace and strategy, as we know. And there we go, the session has ended, and we're going to return to the garage and get ready to start this hour-long race of Silverstone. With 11 AM on a Sunday, the track temperature is currently 25 and an optimum track conditions on the Sunday. I wouldn't expect to see much change in that unless we have some wet weather, which we're going to find out very shortly when the session finishes and moves on to the race itself. This is the bit where, unfortunately, it's not particularly elegant with the ACC control window. And we just have to wait now for that session to start. Obviously, we did see some rather good results there. You can see, if I put your timetables up on the screen, you can see the sector times there are split between P1 and P3. Most of them averaging around 5 laps there, but there's still that 2.5 tenths there between P1 and P2. It was a lot closer at one point than that, but unfortunately for Joe Boyle, Von Brabant managed to pull out that extra couple of tenths on that lap 6 of his that he managed to complete. Got a bit further down to your GT4s. You can see there Tomlinson Dennis is P1 for the GT4s.
All right.
there you are, is your qualifying session is over. We're just waiting to get in the race session, which has now spun forward for us. Let's drive and we will go forward to the front of the grid and we will do our usual grid walk that we've got from P1. Let me just do what is the worst and most unelegant thing of the entire game, is to get into the free camera mode, which is just there. So let me just get into that for you, and then we can do our grid walk that we always like to do, which we obviously John would normally take you through as well when he is here. So you can see the McLaren and the Bentley there. We're just going to turn off the follow car enabled, because otherwise you just get the jumping around. You can see some of these classic liveries that we're seeing tonight as well. The car number 9 there, Leaky McGee, starts P4 on the grid in that wonderful looking Bentley with 1 minute 30 left to go on the lights out. And you can see the McLaren there is obviously a popular choice for this series. And then number 222 Bentley there as well for Alex Phillips. And moving a little bit further back, we've got the McLaren of Mark Bunyan as well there, the car number 4. Again, you would think he races for SOP on a regular basis with the pink that's coming through there, the Lamborghini there as well for Morchetta. And no surprise that we've got another McLaren there, and the Ferrari car number 13 there you can see on the grid for Badman, who we did see during the qualifying session, and one of the first ones out on the track. So we're going to move further down there. You can see the Aston Martin there, the car number 54 of Grooveson, and then moving further back, let's get some of these GT4s in on the action as well before this race starts. There is the class leader for the GT4s, and with no surprise Tomlinson Dennis there, who had a particularly good race last week as well. Moving further back, obviously Ian Egan as well, he's in amongst the mix, and then more pink cars at the back here. Again, you would think they may be something to do with SOP on a regular basis here. Obviously we're starting on the old national pit straights for Silverstone this week, and not the international which we see in the Formula 1. And this is where the home of the MotoGP start as well is. So let's just jump back on board with our race leader and P1 sitter, and we will get him to start us on our formation lap this evening. Hear the engine rev up. And don't forget, tonight's series is sponsored by Coach Dave Academy as well. We are on board with Von Brabant, the car number 24 McLaren, as he now takes us round on our wonderful out lap and formation lap. We've got an hour here tonight at Silverstone with its 18 turns, 3.6 miles of tarmac, and obviously home to the British Formula 1 as well as many other racing events, British GT, British Superbikes, and of course MotoGP as well, amongst many others. It's a very popular circuit here in the UK, along with the more MSV classic British tracks as well, Donington, Alton Park, etc., which you can see all of those tracks in this series, including the Spa Round 5, as we follow the replica calendar as well. I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be a fantastic race before ending the series again in Donington Park for the second round there, which is round 7. Is tonight's championship, sponsored by Coach Dave Academy, which you will see plenty more of throughout this race as well. Obviously not missing any of that vital action. So as we've got on board with Von Brabant, now the car number 24, as he comes through Stowe himself, and let's go on board with what is the helicopter cam just to see these cars as they line up on the grid for tonight's race. Weather is cloudy for the next 30 minutes with a track temperature of 27. That is the hottest we've seen it so far in any of the sessions that we have seen, and but no rain on that radar yet, and these drivers will be praying for no rain, as their quali and practice sessions have both been bone dry. I'm sure they're all running dry setups, and you can see the McLaren of Van Stralen there just been a little bit eager. Good job ghosting's on, otherwise he'd have some damage by now. And Leaky McGee there in P4, warming those front tyres up. I've got his stream open as well. Interesting to see how things look from a driver perspective. But rest assured, we'll be on board with them throughout. Good luck to everybody racing. Thank you, MSX78. I've good luck. It's a bit late for good luck, really. We're well and truly into this now. We're 37 minutes in. So all I'm hoping is I may not be as interesting as John, but I'm hoping you can understand me a little bit more than John. So good luck to all the drivers out there. Car number 24 brings us around the top end of the circuit in Aintree. As he now goes down the Wellington Straight, and he's going to see that green flag pretty soon. Going to be eager to get racing, and the clean start here is imperative, especially after last week's race at Alton Park. And I would have thought we're going to see the variation of strategies and this front pack break away pretty quick. I know we've got Joe Boyle there, who is eager to get racing as well in that Bentley. P2 last week for him, starts P2 on the grid this week, so a very familiar position for him. Leaky McGee's there, going to be keeping pressure on the McLarens in front, of course, with Hayden Harter as well, not too far behind on lap times. So here we go. Drivers come round Brooklands up towards Luffield. Thank you for the follow, Mark Music 85. We rely on them notifications coming a little bit later, so thank you for that follow and joining us this evening. I hope we can keep you entertained as much as we can. Let's see exactly what this race is going to start like now as the drivers come around that final corner. Obviously going to be backing right up. Some of those drivers aren't even going to be on the straight bit of tarmac before they are putting their foot flat on the floor. And hopefully we don't see any jump starts or drive-through penalties issued before the race is even underway. You can see the drivers are in position there. You've got obviously the McLaren of Van Brabant there, who's going to have the inside line into Copse, waiting for that green flag any moment now as he approaches the gantry. And there's your green lights, and we are racing at Silverstone for round 2 of the British GT Championship. Great start there from Van Brabant. No, Joe Boyle is going to go around the outside of Copse, pushes wide, stays on the track. He's going to hold position. He's going to have the inside line as he comes up towards the Maggots and Beckett's complex. He's going to make sure his braking is absolutely bob on. He's going to go around the outside there of Maggots, through Beckett's, a little bit of grass there for him, and he's managed to take P1 on. What a fantastic start for Joe Boyle that was, as he now comes down towards Chapel on the exit, and he's going to have his foot flat on the floor, down the hanger straight in towards Stowe, but he's going to have to weave and try and break that toe, otherwise that McLaren's going to breeze by under the braking zone. Leaky McGee in P4, still not made up a position, and you can see there that Joe's going to have to try and cover the McLaren off, which he does perfectly. That is wheel to wheel racing there for them too. Let's go and jump back on board on the rear wing of Joe and see exactly what that looks like from his perspective. You can see the McLaren there trying to get by. He's looking for that move before it's even there, so, and you can see that gap that he's getting already. Let's go on board with that McLaren behind, see what things look like from that perspective. You can see the Bentley is getting a gap already. There's already a 10th there as they come up towards the village complex and then in towards the Loop and Aintree, down towards Brooklyn. But what he needs to make sure of is the Bentley breaks that toe, otherwise it's going to be carnage for him into Luffield, and that McLaren's going to breeze up the inside, back on board with the helicopter. And you can see Leaky McGee there working away at the McLaren, going to try and get by at some point, I am sure. The Bentley there is going to have to break the toe of that McLaren, as the McLaren is not going to give up too easily. You can see Bentley just pulling away actually slightly there. Obviously got a little bit more top speed than the McLaren, and the McLaren washes out there. You can see that he's absolutely fighting there. That Van Brabant now had to fight with the wash, the dirty air that was coming back from behind. And so far it is Bentley, McLaren, McLaren, Bentley, Bentley, McLaren, McLaren, McLaren. And anyone would think this is a British GT replica series as well. Joe Boyle there crosses the time, 7/10 in front of his nearest competitor. That is the best start he could have wished for, around the outside of Copse. Fantastic move, in fact. Staying on board then with Joe as he starts lap 2 of this race up towards Maggots and Beckett's. Leaky McGee looking to make a move on the McLaren. He's just dropped back a bit there. He's going to have to defend from Alex Phillips, who is all over the back of the other Bentley as well. He drops back a little bit. Let's see what it looks like from the TV camera perspective. You can see that gap there for the GT4s already dropping back. Does seem to be a bit of a gap there with Mark Bunyan and Luke Rogers. I'm going to jump back with the GT4s in a minute. You can see this train that's going to start to form, which is just toe after toe after toe, and it's now a case of which drivers can break that toe and how quickly can they do it. Joe Boyle still in the lead, but he is taking Van Brabant with him, and you can see that gap's just opened up a little bit, but he's going to have to do a little bit more than that to get rid of that McLaren. We know what pace he has got, so as he now comes around towards the international pit straight. The other McLaren there of Von Stralen there, as he now comes round as well. Cone in the middle of the track, won't affect the drivers too much in the position that is there. You can see Leaky McGee there has had to go from attack to defend. look on his rear wing, you will see that other Bentley there looking at the back of him with McLaren behind. This is incredibly close racing. We've only been racing for 3.5 minutes and already we've had some action. Joe Boyle's moved there on lap 1 around the outside through Magnus and Beckett's, managed to make it stick, showed no sign of giving up at all, and he managed to make it stick and keep that position of P1. Things are looking like they're going to start to settle down a little bit now, but that's only until the pit stop start. Phillips there cleaning on the Bentley of Lee King McGee as he now comes around Luffield as well. Start lap 3 then. Joe Boyle is your current race leader. That gap though has not managed to get above a second. In fact, it's been closed by a tenth. And it looks like Lee's going to have this Bentley for company through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel once again. And you can see how close these drivers are. There's not many gaps opening up already. And you can see on back of the board there with Joe Boyle, you've got the McLaren of Von Brabant there looking like he's going to try and make some move. He's definitely not giving up there. But these two are starting to slowly pull away from the rest of the pack. So Joe cannot relax for any moment there. We've got a white flag on the track there for the car number 197, which is Michael Taylor. Looks like he's had an off at Cops in the Ferrari, and the car number 197 there back well underway, which we saw a little bit earlier. Alex Phillips then looks like Lee King McGee in fact has managed to break away a little bit from him as he was dawning down on the back of his rear wing. In fact, where has Lee King McGee gone? Looks like he may have had an incident of some description, because that gap is certainly big. I don't think he's even in front of him. Lee King McGee down there in P7, so he's obviously had an off or a ran wide at some point. Still up on this lap though, but obviously they've only got their formation laps to base that date up at the moment. Hayden Hayter there, Harter rather, so he's in P6. He's going to be Lee King McGee's next target once he can catch up with him as he comes round the Farm Curve Loop Aintree Complex, as I like to call it. Nice and simple that is. Well, why put extra words in there when you don't need to? Joe Boyle then, in link seat. The streamer there, and you can see that McLaren is a lot closer on this particular occasion as they come down towards Brooklands now, and you're going to have that McLaren pull out, which he just does there, has a little look too far back. He's going to try and send it just too far back on that particular occasion. No, but we did see that McLaren struggling in the wake of that Bentley earlier, but on this particular occasion it was absolutely solid, so he was ready for that understeer which he got on the last lap. You can see how close that McLaren is as they're going to go down towards Cops now. The Bentley appears to have the straight line speed, and the McLaren catches him up through that sector 3 curve complex. You can see the McLaren there a little bit later on the brakes as well. He's so much later on the brakes in fact, and that's where he gains his time. Bentley starts to pull away again once you get onto a straight, but you can see the McLaren not giving up just yet. Joe Boyle is having to fight that McLaren off. He's only 2/10 back now on this 4th lap of this race. Bentley looks absolutely solid, and the two McLarens still closing down with Borden in the McLaren behind the Bentley. You can just see that Bentley coming to screen there with the McLaren too far back. You can just see though of how much more power, the straight line speed Joe Boyle's got in that Bentley on the McLaren, and you'll see now as you start to get into the twisty turns on the technical side of this track how much that McLaren starts to close things up. Running a little bit wide there. Drivers got to be careful there of the track limits, of course. We've issued 3 of those and you are in for a penalty. That is one that you really do not want. So the Bentley there comes round Vale, and as you can see the first blue flag is going to be issued very shortly there for the car number 88, which belongs to Martin Bryant, who obviously did not get the start that he desired. The car number 197, which I mentioned earlier, is in the pits. Michael Taylor is in the pits. He's preparing his damage. You can see that on your screens on the right hand side there, but you can see now that Bentley there, the speed from sector 1 and 2 manages to pull that gap, but what you're seeing now is that the McLaren behind Von Brabant, who is just going to start to close that gap again, although this is the furthest we've seen them apart for quite a while now, 8/10 apart. Van Stralen there with the fastest lap with a 1:58.1 dead. And they all now come down the Wellington straight up towards Luffield, and that blue flag for Joe Boyle is going to be hopefully just in the right place for him, and with a bit of luck that car will just pull out of the way for this battle that we're ongoing now on board with the helicopter as they come around Luffield and through Woodcott now. Ginetta there, that's the blue flag I've been talking about. You can see it's going to be just in the wrong place for Joe Boyle. That's really not going to help him. If you've gone back or down, you can see the McLaren's going to look at the opportunity here and go, thank you very much. That blue flag really hasn't helped Joe at all. On board with these two going side by side into Maggots and Beckett's. The blue flag there going crazy in the background. Joe manages to keep that Bentley absolutely on rails through that complex there, and he's going to be thinking to himself, how close was he to losing P1 there because of that Ginetta that got in the way. That McLaren's now going to be all over the back of the Bentley, but what's that's allowed to happen is the McLaren, the Von Australian, there to be able to also catch up on the back of him with Alex Phillips in the background. So you can see that blue flag really has bunched this pack up again nicely, and we've got those opening laps to revisit again now. But the Bentley just pulling away on the straights, which is not too unfamiliar, which is what we have been seeing at the start. Links it in P1. It's over 9,000 RPM. Let's go. And I'll tell you what, he had a fantastic start as well. He sent it around the outside of Copse and went 2 by 2 through Maggots and Beckett's and made it stick. Made no sign of backing out at all as he now comes down the international pit straights, or the Hamilton straight, I should keep calling it now. And you can see that McLaren is still there. Von Brabant, we're in for one hell of a race here. Mustn't forget about the cars a bit further back down the grid, but these two are providing such a battle at the moment, it's very easy to do so. We are 10 minutes into this race. We've got mandatory pit stops still to come, and the weather does not look like it's going to be changing, so that's one thing the drivers haven't got to worry about. But Boyle now comes down the straight again. You'll see that Bentley just pull away from the McLaren, and he'll catch up again during the technical parts of the track. Van Stralen there in P3 with the fastest lap at the moment, with a 1 at 58.1. And you can just see there that Joe Boyle manages to take a slightly different line to what the McLarens do behind, but he is a second down on this lap because of that blue flag at the start of it. Hopefully he has managed to claw back that lead again. You can just see a gap starting to appear there with P7 down, with Lee Kingy McGee on the back of Hayden Harter's wonderful McLaren as well. You can just see him closing up on that on the right hand drive, of course, on the Bentley, as he now starts his 6th lap of this race. I'm going to lead you on board with our race leader as I just have a very quick sip of my drink and catch my breath after this action in the first 11 minutes of this race. So Joe Boyle there still fending off the McLaren. We are now on the 6th lap of this race, the British GT Series, sponsored by Coach Dave Academy. We're at Silverstone this evening for round 2, and Joe Boyle is your current race leader, but by all means that is subject to what Van Brabant wants to do in the McLaren behind. The car number 24 has been on the back of that Bentley ever since this race started. In fact, he started on pole, the car number 24, and Joe went very, very bravely around the outside of Copse and managed to go 2 by 2 in through Maggots and Beckett's complex and managed to make it stick. And the Bentley is just out horsepowering the McLaren on the straights, which is how he's keeping his way in front at the moment. But you'll see under the brakes of how quickly that McLaren, look at that, the McLaren catches up on the back of that Bentley. That couldn't have been a better example if I tried of how quickly those all bunch up again. Lee King McGee makes his way back up into P6 after losing that position at the start. Leon Seeley in P7. We're going to stay on board with these two now as they're going to come towards Copse again, and they're going to try and, as we know, you don't send the wheel up on the inside of Copse. A very familiar phrase from 2021. I'm sure you'll all be aware of that one, as he looks nice and keen on racing there, and the Bentley stays in front again on this next lap, starting lap number 7 of this race. The McLaren is all over the back of that Bentley still, and this race is far from done. Pit stops and spins, yellow flags, white flags, blue flags, everything's still to play for at this moment in time. Good evening, sir, how are you? Thank you very much for that raid. We've got a party rating of 217. Thank you very much for that raid indeed. How are you all this evening? We're here at round 2 of the SOP British GT Championships. We're at Silverstone this evening for round 2, sponsored by Coach Dave Academy, and Joe Boyle, aka Links, is currently leading this race, and he's fending off the McLaren behind, who is just out horsepowering him in the corners, and the Bentley stays ahead on this 7th lap of this race. Thank you very much for that raid as well. I really do appreciate that this evening. And I hope you're going to stay around for the action that we're currently witnessing at the moment. The car number 25, Joe Boyle, is a little bit further ahead than what we've seen throughout this race so far. 5 tenths now. Van Straden still P3 behind. Fastest lap holder at the moment, the 158.1, with these two drivers in front obviously having their times hampered by that blue flag that they previously saw. Leaky McGee makes his way back up into P6 after dropping down to P8 at the beginning of this race for trouble with him. Alex Phillips there in at the Bentley, not too far behind on the back of the McLaren of Van Straden there. This battle here is also going to look a little bit feisty over the next few laps as well. The JRM group, Bentley as it comes around the final corner there of Luffield down towards Woodcock, foot flat on the floor as he's now going to go down towards Copse. The Bentley there, we know it's got the horsepower at the front with Joe Boyle. Has it got the horsepower on the McLaren down the straight here? And he's going to try and look, and I'll imagine he's going to pull out and have a little look in towards Copse there, a little bit too far back as they now go down towards Maggots and Beckett on the 8th lap of this race. The Bentley there taking a slightly different line to the McLaren. Looks like it got the advantage there. You can see how close that is now. So on board with Van Straden and go on board with his rear wing. You can just see that Bentley is constantly looking to try and make a move where it can. Bentley is all over that McLaren at the minute. You've nearly got the horsepower from the front. You can see it's not dropping off at all as they now come up down towards Copse into the braking point. The two leaders at the front pulling away slightly. This gap here, I suspect that Alex Phillips' pace would be representative of those at the front if he can clear the McLaren of Van Straden at the moment, because his current lap time is a 1:58.7, which is those of at the front of this pack. Going through Vale now down towards the final corners of Club and Hamilton Straight for sector 2. Foot flat on the floor, Joe Boyle still in the lead. You can see two leaders there coming into the camera shot there with the McLaren still on the back of that Bentley, but that gap is just opening up, and that's what I mean. That Bentley, if it can clear the McLaren, I would have thought he will catch the two leaders, and that will put a second Bentley in that battle at the front. Evening, John. Do you know, it's almost like your school teachers come to mark you out of 10 when you see John in the chat. Staying on board then with Van Straden there as he now comes round the Aintree complex, put flat on the floor down the Wellington straight. You can see he's opened that gap up to the Bentley, which he'll be very pleased about on his rear wing there. You can see that gap is much more visible now. The two leaders at the front though still pulling away from these two at the front. Let's just jump on board with the helicopter as it comes around Luffield. You can see the McLaren is all over the back of that Bentley, and it's just the straight line power that Joe Boyle's got is just keeping him safe at the moment. You can see, look at the gap that it opens up there through straight line, but it's not going to be long. All it takes is Joe to make a small mistake. You can see the McLaren's constantly looking to make a move down the inside of Copse as he's a little bit too far back on that particular occasion as well. Bentley there is nice and smooth through Copse up towards the Maggots and Beckett complex. It's nice to see him doing well. He's doing very well. He had a great start as well. He went round the outside of Copse and managed to go 2 by 2 through Maggots and Beckett as well and keep it on track. Good evening, how are you? You alright? We're still on board then with Joe Boyle. As you can see, the McLaren's a little bit further back on this occasion. That's what I mean. That straight line speed of the Bentley is just keeping him safe at the moment. But all it's going to take is the pit strategy to go slightly wrong, and that will soon be changed. Leaky McGee, P6. You can see his Bentley there as he goes down towards Copse on the tail of those leaders. He had that little bit of an unfortunate start, which dropped him down a few places. And you've got Leon Seeley there looking behind in the Porsche, who is not going away anytime soon. The car number 246 that's going to be looking to try and pass him as soon as he can. So Leaky McGee, they've got some work to do. He's now on the attack, but it won't be long before he's having to defend from those cars behind. Let's give some of these cars further down the grid a bit of attention. Now, that race at the front certainly has taken most of the stream so far, but when it's that exciting, you can't blame anybody. Mark Bunyan there in the car number 4. P17 at the moment on the back of the Aston Martin of Alex Walker as they now come up towards Vale. The Aston Martin going a little bit deep there, which is going to give that McLaren the opportunity to try and go through the inside of Club. Yep, and you can see the Aston Martin there just runs a little bit wide. And ooh, it looks like they touched there, the flash in there of Mr. Bunyan, knowing full well that he was there as he now comes up the inside up towards the farm curve and the village complex itself. Aston Martin there touching a bit of grass, and if not careful he's going to have to give way to that other Aston Martin that's coming through there of Johnny Marsh, who looks like they're going to go battle to battle. Now let's see what that looks like from the perspective of the helicopter, you can see the car number 69 there of Johnny Marsh. He managed to make his way through on Alex Walker, so that mistake didn't cost him one place, but it cost him two, as they now go down the Wellington Straight towards the bottom of the circuit now of Luffield and Woodcote. And you can see the leaders there going to let's just jump on board with Joe Boyle, because what's going to happen now is you've got the blue flags, which are going to cause him all sorts of issues as they now come through towards Chapel, down the main straight towards Stowe Corner himself. These blue flags are going to really disrupt these leaders, but it looks like Joe's caught them at the right time there. He's now got a 1 second advantage on Van Brabant as he now comes up towards Stowe himself. You can see the McLaren's cleared the back markers there as well, and it won't take him long for him to rebuild that gap up. We know that the pace is probably faster than the McLaren, but unfortunately being faster doesn't mean you can overtake necessarily, as we're seeing here. With 41 minutes left of this race to go, we are far from done yet, and we've had plenty of action so far. These two Ginettas now put up right in the wrong place for Joe Boyle. Ooh, getting a little bit closer there than what he probably would have liked to. The car number 25 pulls out and clears not one, but hopefully two Ginettas before he gets around towards the village complex, which he has done. And you can see the McLaren there of Van Brabant there, not too far behind, but he's just going to catch that other Ginetta just at the wrong time. The car number 21, which we know is Luke Rogers, which is last week's race winner for the GT4 class, as they now come round into the Aintree corner itself. Foot flat on the floor, down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands and Luffield. Joe Boyle there has got them blue flags absolutely spot on there. That's really helped him now with a 2 second lead on the McLaren, and we'll soon see that lead come back down again. It gives him a little bit of breathing space, which is probably what he's asking for at the moment, because that McLaren has not gone anywhere for the first 10 laps of this race, and it doesn't look like it's going to go anywhere either. You can see the Bentley there, Alex Phillips, which we knew earlier was faster than the McLaren in front of Van Stralen with the fastest lap, but he just couldn't get by. So you can see that Bentley now is going to close up hopefully on these two front runners of Van Brabant, which will take a bit of pressure off Joe at the front as well. Stay on board with Alex Phillips, and I'm just going to catch up on this Twitch chat, which Raven seems to be commented in, which is never a good thing. Gifting subs as well now, is he? Good evening, John. I hope you're well. It's lonely in the commentary box without you here. I look forward to our next session together. It's always nice to have you insulting me as we go along. Staying on board with Alex Phillips then, as he now comes around Stowe Corner up towards Vale, and he's also going to catch up that back marker there of the car 315, which I believe belongs to Chris Puzik, which I've got on my list here, which it does. And we can see as he clears him now through Vale down, surrounds the last corner of Club. Oh, very good. I just need to turn you on the stream, because they're not going to be able to hear you. Oh, not too bad. Not too bad at all. Oh, hang on, I'm going to put you on the stream so they don't think I'm talking to myself. I've got a special guest in the commentary box this evening, which is John. You may know his Scottish accent from somewhere along the line.
Yeah, my name's John. How are you all doing? I'm new to this internet thing. Yep, new here this evening.
Have you been watching the race, John?
I've been watching bits and pieces, Alex. My shifts were changed erratically, so I did make it home. I got a bit of qualifying. I didn't see the opening exchanges of Linksay taking the lead, but I did hear you talk us through it. Awesome stuff.
It was great stuff. I can't believe what I was seeing.
Incredible stuff. Although, to be saying that, it's Linksay.
Yes, it is.
Do we expect anything else, ladies and gentlemen? No, we absolutely don't.
You almost have to talk him down to make it sound as good as it did, which seems really wrong and counterintuitive, but that is what it looked like.
Indeed. Yeah, the guys are, and I tell you, you look at Van Stralen Paul. Alex Phillips, get big shout out to Hayden Harter, by the way. Unbelievable qualifying from the big man to get himself up in fifth. There's been fantastic racing going on, like you say, Alex. The battles going on up at the front have mind-blowingly needing all the concentration. But we've got things like Van Strelen, Paul, fastest man on the track, down to 4th because Alex Phillips is up to 3rd. Lee Kingy McGee's got himself past Hayden Hart, and Leon Seeley's hanging on in there in 8th. And I can't even imagine what's currently going on in the GT4s, because Milton Tomlinson Dennis has been overtaken by Ian Egan. It's SOP, Alex. What more
you
could
wouldn't
we
expect anything less, and I said that before. That when I did my grid walk at the start of this race, I did say that you never rule out a minute of this race. It's not until the checkered flag drops that you actually set up for the positions that you've got on the screen in front of you.
Indeed. And yeah, big shout out to everybody in the chat. Hello, massive thank you to all the raiders. Well done to SOP Motorsports and some tube called Double O Raven, SOP Cully Red, Death Zone, Chris Pusick, Chromodix, Jake 2000, The Real Double, Schubert, The Truth Is Real, Jixer and Linksy all gifted subs. There's a few follows as well. Notifications aren't popping up on the screen, but I see you all hitting that follow button. Thank you very much. As you know, it is Sunday night, and the level of talent on the grid, I believe, Alex, was it 1 second separated the top 9 to begin with?
That was exactly, I think it was just under actually.
It's incredible. Yeah, the level of talent out on the track is absolutely incredible in both fields. Like I say, we've got Milton Tomlinson Dennis, who I know is teammates of Chromodix and the ERS guys. Did he take pole in the GT4s?
He did.
I think it might have, he did. He took pole in the GT4, so it'll be interesting to find out why or how Ian Egan got a 2-second gap. But Tomlinson Dennis definitely one of the boys. Didn't have a good opening race last week. Thank you, by the way, Alex. I really appreciate the nice words about my comedy last week, saying it was worth going back to watch. I'll make sure I send you that check fully written out. This one won't bounce.
If you could please, Matt, sooner rather than later, you know. Otherwise I can't say the same about you on Wednesday night if you don't pay in advance, you see.
Chromodix! Get back in the comms box soon as well. Exactly. Chromodix in the chat. OF, I am sub, thanks. You're absolutely welcome. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Speaking of nice guys, blown away for Hayden Hart, cruising in the top 10. Love to see it. I did have 3 streams open. I was watching Linksay. I'm thinking he might be listening in the background. Thank you for all the shouts out on your stream, Linksay, for SOP, sending viewers our way to watch and listen. And let's face it, basically wax lyrical about you in a Bentley, which he says he's trying to get to know. He's basically got an aggressive setup with a couple of minor changes he's made, and that is what he is running since the 1.8 model. He feels like he's getting to know the Bentley all over again. If this is the starting point, Alex, yeah, the mind boggles. And his defensive work at the moment, with Van Brabant behind them, I mean, it is how these two haven't traded paint so far is beyond me. And Van Brabant, again, as we come to the halfway mark in the race, is looking to pick Linksay's pocket if he can.
Well, this is what I'm saying, John.
It's an amazing battle.
The only thing saving to Joe Boyle, other than his pure natural skill that obviously he displays all the time, is the straight line speed of that Bentley, because the McLaren is catching him in sector 3 every single lap, and he's right on his bumper at the start of the lap, and by the end of the lap he's sort of stretched a 1 second gap again. So that Bentley's straight line speed is definitely playing a big factor in this battle, and it just goes to show the level of skill that Joe Boyle is currently displaying to be able to keep the car where he needs to keep it during sector 3, because if obviously one error on the exit of Luffield and boom, his lead's gone.
Oh yeah, we've got a back marker. I tell you what, this is all. I gave him a quick mention when I first jumped in here, Alex, and I think he's worth another mention, and that is another Alex. This one, surname Phillips, AJ to the P, and he is AJ to the flying right now. And this battle up ahead is playing right into his hands, and these back markers as well. And I tell you what, 2 is about to become 3.
Well, this is what I'm saying.
It's an SOP 3-way battle.
I don't know whether you heard me earlier, but I did say once Alex Phillips had managed to clear the other McLaren, which was Van Stralen himself, with the pace was there of the Bentley, it was just clearing Van Stralen and the McLaren. So obviously now he's past the McLaren, he's right up there on the pace, and this is really going to play right into Joe Boyle's hands now, because he's going to be thinking to himself, oh, I've got a bit of time now, I've got a bit of pressure off me, because the car number 24 there of Van Brabant is now gone from aggressive to defensive with the car number 222 right on his bumper as he now starts his next lap.
Yes, indeed he does. Chromodix giving shouts out. Yeah, Chromodix, jump in and say hi if you want, buddy. You're one of the staff here. We'll just completely pitch invade Alex's broadcast.
Absolutely.
Sorry,
I was going to put the kettle on, John, actually, if you want my kettle on.
well, it is Silverstone. You've got previous. Hey, hey!
No. Hang on, I have still got the mute button for you.
Of course, of course. Big shout out as well to Adrian Bourdon. Qualified outside the top 6, 7th I believe, finds himself in 4th at the moment. Of course, we have seen our first top 10 driver come into the pit, and it is Mr. Van Strellen Paul. He's come back out in 17th, still got the purple tag next to his name with the 158.107. Van Brabant 58.192. Linksay doing all that defender up at the front with a 58.330. 2 seconds quicker, or 3 seconds quicker than they can get qualifying. It's heartbreaking stuff. It is heartbreaking stuff. SP Motorsport P21 is not for position. P21 holding back the leader.
And you're about to see a move here, John, around the outside of Stowe itself. A little bit too far back. The Bentley, they're just trying to go around the outside of the McLaren. He tries to cut back on the inside, keep it nice and stable. The dirty air there of the McLaren in front, just making the Bentley a little bit unstable as he now comes through Vale. You've still got this McLaren and Bentley battle, but it's just two different drivers instead of the front two instead. So you can see there as he now comes down the international pit straight, aka the Hamilton straight, in towards the village complex. The Bentley's just a bit too far back. It's almost role reverse. So Boyle's Bentley's got the pace, and Phillips' Bentley's got the corner in. So it's sort of like a mixture of McLaren sandwich at the moment.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
What is worth noting, though, is that gap that Boyle's now pulling out the front there because of this battle that's happening on behind. He's now 2 seconds ahead, so he's going to be rubbing his hands together and probably looking at his Twitch stream chat so he can have a bit of a catch up on that, because that's probably the first time he's not had any pressure on at all for this entire race so far.
Yeah, indeed. There is. I'm just looking at these lap times as well. The back marker certainly played again right into the hands of Alex Phillips and Adrian Bourdon. I was just looking down at the GT4s as well there, but looking back at that time, it was really difficult to get
I'll tell you what we're all doing. Let's just see what happens through.
Oh, Alex in the pit.
He's jumped in the pits.
He's been followed by AJ. Ooh, both Bentleys back on the halfway mark, straight into the pits. Jim Bobbins, thank you very much for the follow, bud. Again, sorry the notifications aren't popping up this evening, but we're popping off in the chat, Alex, and thank you. You lot are certainly popping off in the chat. It's great to see you all. Thank you for the follow, Jim Bobbins. Apologies to anyone that did follow earlier on. Like I say, the notifications not quite kicking in tonight, but we do obviously massively appreciate all the follows. If you do want to get involved in the racing as well, there's a Discord link now that we've rehired the bots. So yeah, feel free to jump on there. PlayStation and, as you can see, PC. And we don't do things by halves. No. As you can see from the action on track, it is all going off right through the field. We're halfway into the race, and poor Alex has barely had a chance to breathe. And just as he thought he was going to get a chance to breathe, a Scotsman pitch invaded his broadcast, flashing lights along the Hamilton straight. They're going to go 5 wide with Giannetta's Lamborghinis. McLaren, second position, Bourdon, now that the leaders have come into the pits. Oh, sorry, second. Yeah, the leader has come into the pit, Van Brabant. Now the on-track leader.
That's a late lock up there for Van Brabant, just trying to avoid the back markers in front of him. That was very near contact, that was. Sorry, John, I know you can't say that. I'll share my Discord stream in a second so you can catch up with live action, but that was a very near miss for the current leader. Bourdon has now taken P1. Obviously, we've got Joe Boyle, the net leader, in the pits, but that may now be enough for Joe to get the undercut to work even nicer for him, because that was very close to contact and avoiding action was needed there from the McLaren driver.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just having a quick look myself at Liam Page there. That was the McLaren that we're talking about in chat. He's got a ding-dong battle at the moment with Prangley in the Lamborghini. There's blue flags flashing absolutely every place at the moment for this group of drivers. Oh, and we've got someone else coming to the pits.
It's Van Brabant that's in the pits. And that's going to be interesting, because what we'll all do in a second, we'll jump on board with Joe Boyle and see exactly how much time he lost to that back marker. And I would have thought Joe Boyle will now have a comfortable lead as he now comes round to start his next lap. But it'd be interesting to see whether that undercut has worked successfully.
He's just coming through the village complex now.
So we'll jump on board with him in a second. And of course we've also got Bourdon there as well, that's going to end up getting benefiting from that back marker that we had, which Van Brabant had to take avoiding action for. Car number 2, 4, 5 there, your net race leader. Joe Boyle had a fantastic start. 2 wide through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. Showed no sign of lifting at any point and managed to maintain that P1 lead. Started P2 on the grid this evening, and he has drove an absolutely fantastic race so far with 27 minutes left. He's just served his pit stop and he crosses the line now to start his 17th lap of this race, and his closest rival is still in the pit lane.
Yep, he's just exiting the pits now. There's blue flags flashing all around him. I'm just having a proper look there. Is that Grieveson just going past there, or is that... Yeah, that is a Bentley just in front of him. Is that Alex Phillips?
Alex Phillips
It's Alex Phillips! That is Alex Phillips. So, the undercut has worked massively then for Mr. AJ to the P. Now finds himself ahead of Van Strelen.
Just one watch as well, John, is Adrian Borden, and don't forget about him. He managed to take advantage of them blue flags for the front runners. He's still out, providing he doesn't stay out too long that he loses his pace. It may benefit him greatly as well in these final 25 minutes of this race.
Yeah, it really might. Oh, we've got a stop go for car number 93. Can't get a second to look at anything. Who's that has been done for speeding in the pit lane?
Vinica.
Okay, so not one of the top 10 drivers, but still.
Car number
like
it still hurts. The 30-second stop go. We got one yesterday in our endurance race, and I can tell you it does hurt.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Adrian Borden in the pits then. He is trundling along there. Let's just jump back on board with the leader of this race, Joe Boyle, the car number 25, as he now comes through Aintree himself down towards the Wellington Straight, down towards Brooklands and Loughville. Let's see exactly how this battle shapes up then, because we know Borden got a gifted place from the back markers that kept P2, Van Strelen and Van Brabant up. So let's see what happens with Joe Boyle now as he now comes up towards Loughfield. He's going to have his foot flat on the floor through Woodcote, wanting to try and maintain P1 if he can. Adrian's still in the pits there, the car number 246. Borden's cleared his pit stop. I think he's going to do it, John. No, he's managed to maintain his pace. Joe Ball there has managed to he's now going to be net P1. You've got there and Seeley still to serve their pit stops, but Boyle has got Grieveson and Borden, who obviously is now coming through Maggots and Beckett's. Your timer screens on the left hand side of the game will update shortly, but I can confirm that Joe Boyle is very much firmly in front of him as he now comes down towards Stowe Corner himself as well. So that pit stop has worked off a treat there, and there you go, your timer screen on the left has updated for you. You can see that Joe has managed to maintain that net P1, but what is worth noting is Van Strelen there, the car number 27, is not too far behind. We've had a bit of a change in pace there. That was the fastest lap holder, still is the fastest lap holder, but the P2 position of Van Brabant was lost under those blue flag conditions where he had to lock up and take evasive action of the back markers going in towards the village complex as well. So the current leader Leon Seeley there on lap number 18, just coming around the Loughfield corner now. Let's see what he does on this occasion and see when Joe can officially take that position back that he has worked so hard for this evening. He's had a cracking race. It's good to see so much support for him in the chat as well. I think we should start calling these races blue flag racing, because these back markers are all over the track now. You can see they're still grouped together though in sector 3. We're about to jump into sector 1. "23 minutes left of this race and it is far from over. The race leader is currently in the pit stop as well, which is Leon Seeley, but Joe Boyle, who is the net leader of this race, took P1 off the start line, started P2 for this race. He's about to come down level with the pit stops as well now and see exactly what he does as he crosses the line to start his 19th lap of this race, and he takes back his well-earned, deserved P1 position with Van Strelen, his next nearest competitor, who is not too far back. In fact, if we jump on board with the dash of Van Strelen, you can see that Joe Boyle, you can see him in the camera shot there as he comes through Maggots and through the right and left of Beckett's down towards Chapel. This car in front, the blue flag, is going to be right at the wrong time for him, and he's going to have to lift, and he's lost a lot of time there. It looks like there was contact. You can see the Mercedes, they're just trying to get out of the way, and that was possibly the worst time to be in a GT4 car, and obviously the GT3 car fast approaching from behind. These GT4 cars are having a rough race here. You wouldn't think a wide track like this would cause so many issues, but there's been a lot of blue flags so far. 22 minutes left of this race, plenty of action so far. All of those drivers on the left hand side of your screen now have served their pit stops. That's what the little green icon means on their names. If you're not familiar with ACC, Adrian Borden then down in P5 after he temporarily took the lead, taking advantage of the gifted position under them blue flag conditions earlier. Van Brabant back up into P4, and he's going to have Alex Phillips in his sight next, but we know Phillips has got the pace around here. He's currently lapping it at a 58.2 with Van Stralen lapping at a 58.5 as well, so he's going to be on the back of that battle very, very shortly indeed.
And speaking of being on the back of that battle, Van Brabant is right on the rear spoiler coming through the village complex then, looking for all kinds of movement. Know how quick he is, but the pit stop really have mixed things up there, so just jumping back in the unexpected ring off the doorbell. We got that one quickly sorted out. But yeah, it looks like it came back at just the right time again. SOP races very rarely fail to deliver, and this one is
Bentley just a little bit out of shape there on the exit of Luffield, John.
Yeah, and I tell you what, we've got Lee Kingy McGee as well in 7th after the pit stop phase. He's closing in on Hayden Hatter, so those two swap places back again after the pit stop phase to the original starting positions. But Lee is closing that gap. Milton Tomlinson Dennis is now 4 seconds in arrears. So it appears Ian Egan has got some extra horsepower in his Aston Martin, leading the way in the GT4s with Chris Pizik, in 3rd. Oh, and Hutchinson, just as I was having a nosy down there, he's closing in on Dewsma. He's got himself a drive-through. Vinica serving his stop-go 32nd as we speak. And Mark Bunyan as well, I'm seeing, is all over the back of Grieveson as well, trying to get himself up into 14th position. And in fact, Spears and Crooks are going at it as well. One of the rare sightings of a Porsche, the Ancelian one as well. McGee, Harter, I tell you what, his dealer's choice here, Alex, is where to look. 2nd, 3rd and 4th on top of one another, 6th and 7th on top of one another, 11th and 12th, not too far apart, 14th and 15th, giving one another all kinds of side eyes at the moment. And I tell you, it is 11 and 12 that looks like it could be change of position. Oh, nothing doing on the way into Chapel. Could there be anything along the Hamilton for these two? Nose to tail, very similar liveries as well, colour wise. Oh, I'm not going to try one through that chicane. Is he going to go for the cutback? But perhaps looking for a better exit here to get the foot down a bit earlier. Oh, the Porsche getting out of shape there. That is not what he needed. And oh, the McLaren has a look, decides not to enter the right-hander. Will there be a move on the exit of the village complex? Oh, I'll tell you what, we might not find out, because oh, this bunch up at the front, Alex, it is even closer now. Van Strel and Paul, they're all getting closed up.
It's just worth noting as well that Alex Phillips, obviously now in P2, he's lapping faster than the race leader of Joe Boyle. As it stands at the moment, that gap is at 3.3 seconds, but that is going to start coming down with the current pace that they're lapping at. Two McLarens behind, which is Van Stralen and Van Brabant as well. They are their pace is a little bit off of what it is of those at the front, but it's still obviously far from over, and it never is over in an SOP race until the checker flag drops. But Boyle now is going to have to respond to that increase in pace from behind, because his last lap was a 59.6 and Phillips' last lap was a 58.7. Obviously these back markers are playing a big part of that, but Joe Boyle needs some clean laps now to be able to put that gap back up to what it was. Otherwise he's going to have Alex Phillips knocking on his bumper saying, excuse me, I want that top step on the podium.
Yeah, and he just might. He is looking very quick as Alex. He's carving his way through the field. The GT4 drive-through cleared. Van Strelen giving Alex, as you say, he's lapping quicker than Linksy at the moment, while defending. So he really is flying in that Bentley at the moment. Linksy doing exactly what he's just got past another GT4 there. As he is coming in the village. Alex Phillips not far behind, as you see, he is closing that gap. But doing it well defending to two McLarens, and it is two McLarens that he's defending to. Van Brabant will very, very quickly, I would say, Alex, take himself a double overtake if Phillips and Van Strellen ahead of him.
Well, his pace is actually quicker than anyone else on the circuit at the moment, and he's in P4, so it's not going to take too long. But unfortunately, these back markers just seem to come at exactly the wrong time. And the car number 27 there of Van Stralen runs wide on the exit of Luffield. And Brooklyn, sorry, as he comes round Luffield, they're going to be side by side, and he's now going to give the opportunity of the McLaren of Van Brabant the opportunity up the inside of Copse, which we know from real life experience isn't necessarily the best place to overtake. Let's see how he pulls out now as he goes up towards Copse. Can he send up the inside? It looks like he's a little bit too far back, and he did dab the brakes on the entry there, but unfortunately he runs wide through Copse, which means Van Brabant is going to get another opportunity on the exit of Maggots and Beckett if he can stay on the back of that McLaren, which he looks like he's doing perfectly. It's absolutely on rails. And the car number 27 there of Van Stralen needs an absolutely perfect exit on off Chapel, otherwise in towards Stowe he's going to have a bit of a problem. He's going to have a McLaren on door to door with him. Let's go on board with the helicopter view to see what this looks like. You can see that the car number 27 there of Van Stralen managed to get that exit that he needed off Chapel, otherwise he would have been saying goodbye to that third step on the podium. You can see the Audi there of the GT4 just in the wrong place there, which I believe is Luke Rogers, in the Audi, I think. The car number 15 there.
Oh, it's Luke Rogers, sorry, yeah.
Coming through.
Tomlinson Dennis.
Say again, John, sorry?
Milton Tomlinson Dennis, the ERS driver.
That's correct, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There's too much going on in this race with 16 minutes.
Oh yeah, there really is, there always is. And I'll tell you what's gone under the radar, or certainly gone under several radars, but not mine. Phillips has closed the gap on Linksay by a second.
So we know this is coming, and you almost feel for Joe Boyle and Linksay in a little bit of a way that he manages to maintain that gap, because that move he had on the first lap was something else. You can see that gap there coming down now to 1.8 seconds, which is the closest it's been this entire race. The Aston Martin there's just going to have to pull out the way for him as he comes up towards Brooklands. And you can see there on his dashboard, you can see the Bentley in front, which that is Linksay, that is his next target on track, nobody in between them. His mission and criteria is clear now as he comes around Luffield on the exit of Woodcott and straight down towards Copse. When he crosses the line, I wonder what that gap's going to be on this lap now as he starts lap number 23 as he crosses the line, and that gap is now 1.7 seconds. It's half that gap in just a matter of laps. So with 15 minutes left to go, you would think, John, we are going to see a battle there in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, we definitely are. We're going to see several. I was just checking out Santi Rivera and David Macaretta. Macaretta defending for everything he's got. The Lamborghini really is being hunted down by that McLaren, and they've got a couple of GT4s. They're just making their way through as they come on.
Just a quick shout out to Mafizzle as well for that follow in the chat. Thank you for joining us, buddy. I hope you're going to join us for the rest of this very exciting race at Silverstone this evening. And the race is far from over yet, as the race leader is losing time to Alex Phillips in P2. It's 2 seconds now, so he's gained a bit of time back, but we know that Linksay...
John on board with 7, Lee King and McGee is going side by side with Hayden Harter, who's been eyeing him up for about 3 or 4 laps. They've just come up to Milton Tomlinson Dennis. We saw the battling McLarens of 3rd and 4th go past, and I tell you what, he's going to hang around outside the Chapel. He's now going to pop back in. He had a look, coming into the chicane. He stays in that slipstream, and it looks like the old famous adage, I've never seen more overtakes in the last 10 minutes of an SOP race, is going to have to be extended to 20 minutes of the last 20 minutes of an SOP race, because it is all once again kicking off. Santi Rivera is still holding that position on David Macaretta, just trying to force an error, hoping he makes a mistake. Hayden Harter will certainly be hoping that Lee makes some kind of mistake, and Lee will be hoping that Hayden makes a mistake. The two of them right on top of one another in the closing stages. 13 minutes left to go. Ian Egan, well worthy of a shout out, absolutely cruising in the GT4s, finds himself 6.3 seconds to the good. In fact, he's just about to be overtaken by the battling 2 that we mentioned. Smooth as butter, he goes past Matthew Miziak as well, trying to find his way past Sam Butters to get himself into the top 5 of the GT4s. And Mustafa Ranjbar, worthy of a shout as well. He's got Aidan Brow, I think pretty much where he wants him at the moment. 13 minutes to go. The 2 Genettas, as you can see, we've got groups of Genettas right through the field. The GT4s again doing their bit to maintain the SOP last few lap overtake rule. and a few of them could well be changing positions in the closing stages. Linksay seems to have steadied the ship ever so slightly there though, Alex. Wow, yeah, more than steadied the ship. 2.5 the gap is back up to.
Yeah, just looking at their lap times as well, they are now, Lynx's managed to put that 10th back on that he had on Alex Phillips. That's very much neutralised the time. Although I must say, we're on board with Lynxy now, and that Bentley is sliding a little bit at the rear, so he's definitely pushing. There is absolutely no doubt about that, because we've seen this Bentley absolutely on rails this evening. That's the first time I've seen the back end step out, so he is definitely pushing to get those lap times that he's currently getting.
Yeah, he really is. Lee King McGee, I'm just keeping another eye on him. Absolutely flying at the moment. Just can't quite get his way past.
It's a shame as well. He had a bit of a difficult start as well. He started in P4 on the grid. Don't know if you saw that jump, but he came into a little bit of trouble, which dropped him back down to P8. So he's done well to get himself back up to P7, especially with the level of competition that we've actually got on the track this evening. I can't believe how close these top 10 are after 50 minutes of racing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I tell you, Van Brabant is definitely looking to inspect the upholstery in the back seats of the Bentley in front of him. He could not be getting much closer now. I think same position as Kingy McGee on Hayden Harter here, just trying to find that little tiny chink in the armour. But with a field of this calibre, chinks in the armour are very few and very far between.
No, it then becomes a race of waiting for mistakes, doesn't it, rather than actually trying to outpace your competitors, because you're so equally paced. I mean, you've got to be a good second and a bit quicker around here to make a decent overtake, or wait for a mistake.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing with Lee King McGee down there in P7, and Hayden Hart is putting up some fantastic racing this afternoon. His qualifying performance, as you mentioned, John, was absolutely out of this world. So he's having a great afternoon. He is.
He really is, he really is. Someone else is having a great afternoon. Winstraw, 1983.
Oh, the collide, Lee King McGee and the McLaren of Hayden Hart collide. Lee just tapped the back end of the McLaren, and Hayden managed to stop it fully spinning, but actually ended up on the grass of Chapel. He's got it going again. He has lost a place. And
Seeley's just come through there. He said thank you very much for the coming together. McGee is waiting. He's clearly
Lee's going to give him the place back.
Full responsibility for that coming together. And yeah,
thank you, Winstrol, for the follow in the chat as well. And unfortunately, that is just, I mean, Lee obviously gave him the place back, but that was just unfortunate, because that was purely a racing incident, and you could probably tell by my reaction I wasn't actually expecting it to happen as well.
Definitely not. We were just waxing lyrical about the standard of driving that we're seeing for an hour. The fact that we haven't seen that, I've said that already, the fact that we haven't seen some of these drivers trading paint is just a testament to the level of talent on the track at the moment. We now are into the last 10 minutes, kiddies. Hold on, fasten up those seatbelts, because here we go. It is Joe Boyle, Mr. Linksay, still leading the way. 2.2 seconds is the gap to Alex Phillips, and that gap could well be maintained for the last 10 minutes, given that Alex has got Van Brabant pole position. He took in qualifying, lost first spot in turn number 1, 10 minutes left to go, and he's staring down the bottom spot of the podium. Step 2 is just ahead of him, but it's going to be some ask to get past Alex in the Boatley, especially, well, both of them on home soil here.
Do you think he's going to get past him in the Boatley? Because I don't.
I don't.
That Bentley's got some pace on the straights, and that's where the McLaren seems to be at its weakest, especially this evening. So whether that's setup related or car related, I do not know. But what I can say is that the Bentley has always pulled away on the straights. So providing Alex Phillips can keep it absolutely nailed through the corners, I don't see them McLaren's passing anytime soon. I know they're only 7/10 on the back of him. You can see there from the camera angle that they're literally on the back of his bumper, and you can just see the closing range that they've got late on the brakes, and that's where the McLaren makes up its time. But if you watch in a second when he turns through Club onto the international pit straight, just look at the gap. You can see already there the gap building from the Bentley. You can see what power advantage that's got down the straight.
Yeah, and it is an absolute monstrous advantage that is being put to its fullest use. Still 2.3 seconds between the two Bentleys leading the race, less than 2.2 seconds between second and fourth. And Sterling Paul still holds the fastest lap of the race so far. with that 1 minute 58.107. Alex Phillips has been very close to that, so of course is Joe Boyle and Van Brabant. But it is Van Sterling. Paul finds himself ousted from the podium at the moment. Let's have a look at Santa Rivera. And he has done it. He's got himself inside the top 10. Single digit finishing position is on the cards for the McLaren driver. He's just got himself past David Macaretta in the Lamborghini. Crooks and Grieveson looking for overtakes as well. And I think Grieveson is actually... Has he got the move done? Oh no, he's still trying to get his way past Badman, sorry. The Ferrari still outgunning the Aston at the moment. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be a hold off on that one for. Who do we think in the chat then? Let's see, title P2 not over, but sorry. Battle of P2 definitely not over, says Simon. Amen to that, king of the understatement. Definitely not over. Van Sterling seems to have caught himself.
Oh, Aston there, just the braking on that Aston is so much closer than that Ferrari. He literally, he basically knocks on the back of that bumper, says, excuse me, I'm coming through. And then you can just see the Ferrari hit on the exit of Luffield and going through Woodcott and just pulls away again. Obviously, these back markers of the Aston, they're just getting in the way slightly and hindering the performance of that Ferrari. But you can see there that the Aston Martin logo just appearing above that rear wing, and again on the brakes he just closes that gap so much. The Aston and the McLaren around here, they gain so much time in these heavy braking zone, it's unreal.
Yeah, it really is, and it just shows you how the difference between cars can really battle. P1, P2, Van Brabant still. Alex Phillips is closing the gap while defending, so I'm not sure if Linksay's hit some back marker traffic. 1.7, so half a second he lost there. I do still think that's going. Yeah, in fact you can just see off his rear spoiler. A few cars actually that he's made his way past.
These back markers are saving so many drivers this evening, John, I tell you.
Yeah, really.
It depends on where you catch them, as we know, and obviously we can all relate, having done some form of sim racing, no matter what level, the back markers all either come at the wrong time or exactly the right time. I mean, I've never experienced them myself being at the right time, but some of these drivers tonight definitely have had that luxury. I've
never experienced being anything other than a back marker, so I've got no frame of reference.
Well, actually, that's a lie. I have once at the SOP Christmas party. When I left myself in engine mode 12 on the night, I wondered why everyone was driving past me.
Yes, including me.
I
wondered myself.
It was when John overtook me, I thought something was wrong.
I thought to myself, Merry Christmas, me. Thank you very much, Alex. That's very kind of you to let me ahead of you. Age before beauty. Respect for their elders. I'd love to see it in these young ones today. But no, it turned out you had it on the wrong engine, Matt. So
absolutely. All I'm going to say, John, is that if you're on the stream now, you've got Bentley, McLaren, and that is the closest that we've seen them on track for a couple of laps now. That gap at the front there, back to under 1 second. Linksay will be appreciated that he hasn't got DRS behind him, otherwise he'd be in bother as he comes down towards the Hamilton straight now into Vale. And you can see the Bentley closing in there, and the McLaren. That McLaren is just so late on the brakes through there. That's where he gains all his time. I'd love to see some data of how that actually looked, because the Bentley now pulls away again on the straight, and you'll see as they go in towards Abbey and Farm Curve from this straight here, you'll see how much that McLaren gains on the Bentley in front. In fact, let's jump on board on the back with Alex Phillips, and you'll see the McLaren gain through these slower corners here as he now comes up towards the loop and village. And there's the McLaren. Look, there you are. You see right on the back of the bumper again. And
it's Boyle. It's Boyle. What's going on there? What has gone on there? I can't even. Wait a minute. Right, let me jump in the replay. But Boyle's lost it. He's lost the lead of the race.
And he's got some damage as well, by the looks of it as well. It looks like he's gone into the wall. And that battle was shaping up tonight. So this P2 battle is now a P1 battle as John looks at the replay of exactly what happened there. He's definitely got some damage. You can see the bonnet jumping up and down as he comes up towards Luffield now.
Oh, the back of his car just let go. The back of his car just let go on him.
I did say earlier that the Bentley was starting to slide a bit, didn't I? He was definitely pushing.
Yeah.
He was definitely pushing. That now puts Alex Phillips into P1 of this race. And Linksay, I feel absolutely gutted for. absolutely incredible race. The start he got was phenomenal, but this race for P1 is far from over now. As you can see, this Bentley coming through the Maggots and Beckett's complex on the back of the McLaren GT4 car there, as they're now going to come around towards the hangar straight. The McLaren is all over the back of the Bentley, and Van Brabant is going to be saying, I want that P1 place back, please, where I started. As he now comes up towards the corner of Stowe, he's going to look to try and send it around the outside, around the inside. No on that occasion, as they go side by side now around Stowe in towards Vale, and you'll see this is when the McLaren comes into its own under the braking, which I've been saying all evening. He's going to try and take the outside line there, and it's not quite wide enough for the 2x2 that he was looking for, and manages to hold it around there again. But unfortunately, I think this battle for P1 is far from done now. You can see the GT4 there just splitting the two McLarens up of Van Stralen and Van Brabant there. 1/10 is what separates P1 and P2 at the moment, as they now come up towards the Sector 3 complex of Farm Curve Village and Aintree.
Yes, indeed, they are coming through. I'm just checking down the field. We've still got battles with Greaves and King McGee still trying to get his way past Hayden Harter, Leon Seeley, the big beneficiary there in 6th position. But as you say, the sim racing gods have certainly smiled down upon Alex Phillips. Van Brabant, could he be the massive beneficiary here? We know that the McLaren through the technicals so much later on the brakes, but the Bentley in a straight line. Does this change my prediction? I did say earlier, would it be? I didn't think that Phillips would be overtaken by Van Brabant, but now
well, let's find out. We start the last lap. We're going to stake this entire lap on the rear wing of the Bentley in P1, and we're going to see exactly what the McLaren of Van Brabant can do. We know he's been looking all race. That Ginetta's just been in the wrong time from there, so that rules out a move into Copse. The Bentley manages to keep it around there, although will the Bentley driver now be a little bit wary of his rear end, given what's happened to Linksy there?
Yeah, he might indeed. He might indeed. Could be potentially see some second guessing. No holding back though, as they come flying through the fast left, right, back onto the left again. Here they come on to the straight into Chapel. Maggots and Beckett's done. Van Stralen Paul 1.5 down the road, so he can't see them. And there's Bourdon in the background as well. Cruising along, he's 2 seconds off the pace. Hayden Harter has closed right up on the back of Leon.
That was a bit closer than what he would have liked there, that was.
Oh yes, it was.
A little bit of evasive action needed there from the 24 driver of Van Brabant to avoid the contact. He's now going towards Vale. You can see that McLaren so much later on the brakes, and he'll be wishing that that braking point was just a little bit earlier, and he can mount a move around there as he now comes around the club corner to start the last part of this lap. 15 seconds of the race to go. The McLaren is still looking at the back of his Bentley, but unless a mistake is made by Alex Phillips himself, you would think this is now his victory to lose. Don't forget, we've still got that one last straight to go, the Wellington Straight, which is where we know the McLaren can catch up on the brakes into Brooklands and Luffield, as they now come towards through the village and the Loop Aintree complex, which is a technical part of this track. We've seen the drivers handle it all well this evening, apart from Joe Boyle, who unfortunately Bentley just let go on him on the closing stages of this race. Absolutely gutted for him. You would say he deserved the win that he was working very much towards, given the start he had in towards Brooklands. You can see the McLaren's just a bit too far back to do anything about it, although that was the closest we've seen them so far. That was definitely a last lap lunge, if ever I've seen one, as they come around Luffield, and it looks like Alex Phillips is going to take the victory of round 2 at Silverstone. The McLaren's still not giving up, with one more corner to go, which is Woodcott, ran onto National Pit Straight.
What GT4s!
And the GT4s could not have been in a worse position there, but it is P1 for Alex Phillips this evening, who has had a great race. He did not give up at the start, and he made up those places on the McLaren, which obviously paid him back in dividends when he had the other Bentley spin-off in front of him. What a great race. What have we just witnessed there, John?
Seriously, that was an absolutely epic race from start to finish. Again, huge commiserations to Linksy, absolutely deserving of that victory the way he drove. Although Alex Phillips, again, you can't take anything away from him. He kept it between the mail and the muster, got the car to finish first. You must first finish, and he did both of those. Huge congratulations as well to Van Stralen Paul. Stuck that fastest lap, stuck for the whole race. Big shout out as well to Joe Boyle for finishing. Linksy did make it home in 5th. Hayden Harter got back up to 6th with Lee King and McKee up to 7th. Leon Seeley yielding to both of those on the last lap. He finds himself in 8th. David Macaretta in 9th, and Santi Ver, after that late move on the Lamborghini, finds himself rounding out the top 10. And it's a huge congratulations, has to be said as well, to Ian Egan, who is, yep, there we go, he's up on the screen. Nordsman, thank you very much for the follow. There's Chromadex with the SOP helmets, and there's Ian Egan bringing home the GT4 victory with Milton, Tomlinson, Dennis, who we know. Ian's no slouch himself, 6 seconds. Ian finds himself ahead of Tomlinson Dennis, which in itself is no mean feat, but congratulations to Ian, qualified in second and brings home the race win. So phenomenal drive from him in the GT4s, Alex.
Absolutely, and like I say, that race there had action from start to finish all across the grid, and all I can say is I wish we could have broadcast every single battle we saw there, but unfortunately the battle at the front was just couldn't take your eyes off it, as proven in the closing stages of that last lap there. And the GT4 drivers as well had a phenomenal race on their own, and I think they did quite well to get out the GT3's way as much as they could, because it's not easy, and you would think Silverstone would be an easy track to get out of the way for. It's wide, it's long, and there's plenty of straights, but it always seems to be in Maggots and Beckett's when it's an absolute pain.
Yeah, indeed it does. That was my thought as well. Silverstone, GT4s, GT3s, plenty of room, but yeah, no, it's always difficult on a high speed, on any high speed racetrack, when everyone is vying for those positions, those points that they crave to get themselves to the top of the Coach Dave Academy sponsored British GT Championship. Round number 2. I've now got to calm down and get myself to bed before work at 5 in the morning. That's probably wasn't the best idea, jumping in the comms box, but no, absolutely delighted it did. Raids, overtakes, follows. It was another phenomenal race, Alex.
Exactly, and it was, of course, was complete with our technical at the start, with Simon
Obviously
sending me the Coach Dave videos at the beginning, trying to get him to play. So that tested my technical ability as well as commentating this evening. So it's been full of action tonight, and now I've got to calm down. I think I might need a cup of chamomile tea before I even think about going to bed, John.
Oh yeah, definitely. That was and it does wonders for the championship as well. I'll tell you what, points wise, this does. Obviously Van Brabant won last week. We know that Linksy got himself on the podium last week, 5th this week. Kingy McGee in 7th, Seeley's up in 8th, but Phillips, Van Brabant and Van Strellen taking the top honours there in the GT3, so that is definitely to keep things interesting right until the last week. Let me just see if I can. There we go, that's what I'm looking for. And of course, in the GT4s, that really is going to be a battle royale. Egan, Tomlinson, Dennis and Pizik taking the top honours there. Tomlinson, Dennis and Egan, you feel, might be the two that are going to battle that one out. Of course, Miziak, Ranjbar, Juzma, all depth. Chris Minahan as well, definitely can't be counted out there. So yeah, the points tallies our drivers have achieved this week will certainly go towards the total, but those totals are going to be just like these races, Alex, decided, it looks like, by the absolute final checkered flag.
Absolutely mad, and I think next week obviously is going to be a very good race as well. Obviously, we've put the calendar back up on screen there. If you were at Donington Park next week with Snetterton after, obviously there's the tracks that we've got in the British Series. There's technical tracks, there's speed tracks, there's so many different variabilities for these cars as well. The Bentley in particular will have strengths where others don't. So I think this championship is going to go right down to the last race, which of course is what we would expect from an SOP championship, will we not?
Yeah, it really was. It really absolutely 100% is. I always promise the viewers that at the start, and it's because I know I can promise that with absolute honesty, because yeah, it's gonna happen. Absolutely love it. So yeah, another 6 weeks, 5 weeks of this to go. Sorry, which competition one? We don't do that many. Well, we got literally 5 weeks to go. 5 weeks to go, so we're all good there. We've got another follow. Federico Ferra, thank you very much for the follow. Welcome to the crew. Let me just, if anybody does want to get involved in the racing, there we go. There is the Discord raid. Yeah, Hayden, mate, what a race. Great qualifying, bud. Great qualifying. And it was good to see Lee popping that position back at the end there. That was definitely an unfortunate coming together. But what an absolutely amazing race. I bet you are absolutely buzzing right now. And like I say, absolutely well deserved. I was sitting eating my tea after work, and I saw you qualifying fifth, and I was about to jump out my chair. So yeah, well done, mate. Absolutely well done. But yeah, onwards and upwards. Some of us have got to get up in about 5 hours for work. So I'm going to crack on. We've got Donington next. Then it's Snetterton. Then it's Spawn. Then it's Brands Hatch. And then, of course, in keeping with the British GT calendar, it will be a triumphant return to Donington Park. We'll have to see how the first one plays out. Hayden absolutely drenched. I believe that. I believe that. Absolutely. But yeah, Alex, I'm going to arrange a quick raid and say thank you to you for putting up with me. Thank you to the viewers for putting up with me unannounced. Thank you to Simon for letting me go. I'm going to arrange a raid. We're going to go and raid one of Lynx's good friends, the Earl of Ipswich. Very quick driver. Tell him Lynxy, Raven, and the SOP community on the whole said hi. And I love you all. Stay safe. Take it easy. Yeah, AJ! Just about to get Alex say goodnight on his own broadcast. AJ jumps in the chat! On you go, son. That was the way to do it, baby. P1, yeah. Keep it between the mail and the mustard. And I tell you, I was worried for you. Like, Lynxy just lost it coming out the village complex. The Bentley was looking skitsy. But yeah, congratulations. Let me get this there in the go. Alex, again, apologies for... Pits invading.
John, when I encouraged you to join me, I knew full well you would hijack the full event, so it's not a problem at all.
Quality stuff, quality stuff. But yeah, thank you for having us, mate. And yeah, I'll let you say your good nights.
You going to stick us in a raid, John, as well? Are you?
Yeah, I'm trying to, but for some reason my mod powers
thank you very much, everyone, for joining us this evening. Round 2 definitely gave us the action we would expect from an SOP event, and we were joined by John in the middle of all that as well, and there was action start to finish, which is what you'd expect. And unfortunately, obviously, Lynxy couldn't hold on to that P1. The car just let go of him in the closing stages of that, but a great win from Alex Phillips, who was on the pace from start to finish, and you can't say he did not deserve the win that he got, with Van Brabant and Van Stralen not far behind as well, keeping the pressure on throughout the race. And it certainly gave us a good entertainment this evening. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight, and all the new followers that we had in the chat, and obviously those that gifted some subs as well. And we will catch you next week at Donington Park.